One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Let me. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar. Insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. Metal and mayhem will never die. Rituals reporting pace his way. More legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning to everybody. Let's get this one on the road, man. Good morning to all of you legends, a part of the Breakfast Club. Big round of applause for you guys, man. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this morning, this AM. So we got a lot that's going on in the news, and we're going to be doing almost like a three-parter situation here. So we got a couple of things. But before I even start talking about it, hey, make sure you guys hit that like button. It's number one metric of all of YouTube, man, and it helps out the show immensely. And if you guys are not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button down below. It helps out the show immensely. Also, please consider becoming a member of the show. We have every single Saturday. Man, Saturday mornings, it's a great time over there. On the members only live streams, man, we make sure that you guys have a ball over there on the Breakfast Club. Trust me, you guys aren't just becoming members for no reason. You guys get actual content, and it's awesome, man. And starting at $2.99 a month, man, it helps out the show. It's less than what a cup of coffee at Starbucks would be for an entire month, man, and it helps out the show immensely. Also, we're going to be shouting out all the super chats and all of that stuff. Of course, gifted subs and memberships in itself. All those are, of course, shouted out. But if you guys would like to help out the show monetarily and not have that brutal 30% cut from YouTube, well, we've got these scrolling down below. And real quick, before we get into it, make sure you guys follow my Instagram. This is where I post everything behind the scenes, my lifestyle, the show, Millennial Food Time. We have a great time over there, man. So make sure you guys follow me over there. That's where I correspond with everybody. Also, okay, so we got those out of the way. So make sure you guys hit that like button, though. It's free to do so. So this morning, we're going to be breaking this up into a couple of parts. So obviously, we're going to be giving you guys some updates that's going on in the Middle East. And, of course, there's always conflict in the Middle East, right? Well, we're going to go ahead and cover what's going on actively today, as well as we have the House hearing on COVID. The COVID pandemic is actually going to be, we're going to hear a hearing here at 10:30 in the morning, my time, CST. So in 30 minutes, whatever. And we're going to review that together because obviously I haven't seen it if it's not even happened yet. So we're all going to be watching it at the exact same time. We're going to be breaking some news today. So much love, honor, respect to all of you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming in. And as well, we got Brother Hank saying coming in. Hank is coming in hot with a two-piece. Hey, man. Big W, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the help monetarily, man. It helps out the show way more than you guys know, man. Thank you. We got Shelby up in here. What's up, my man? How you doing? We got Brother Evil as well as Steve Easy, my man. Hardwire, good to see you guys. I hope that you guys got to tune in last night. I did, 3 shows yesterday. But last night, we ended the night off with me and Straight Jacket, and he did a nice, awesome interview on my whole life. I've never actually had someone go through my entire life in an interview. I've only ever gotten interviewed for very specific things in my life. So being able to break down where I'm from and like my history behind that. No one's really done that. So I really appreciate Brother Straight Jacket for bringing me onto his show, The Padded Room. So go over there and check him out, man. We got Martin up in here. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. SNS. Yeah, that's right. Fuckers, hit that like button. Facts. I like that. I like that. As well as Redneck Motorcycle Whip saying share to the page. Hey, my man, I really appreciate that. Like when you guys share this shit, it goes way further, man. Like that is the word of mouth, but for the internet. I swear. Like that's how it works. Briar, good to see you up in here, man. Appreciate you guys. We got, Shelby calling you guys out. Hit that like button, man. Hit that like button. I appreciate you guys. Mike shows off his nub on Saturday morning. Hey, you know what? I'll give you guys a little taste. Boop. Look out. Look out. See, that's all you get. But see, you got to become a member in order to get like, some nub rub and shit. Yeah, we get crazy over here. What up, Gary? Good to see you, as well as Brother Hook Dog. Brother Dean Aston, appreciate you for being in here and hanging out with us this morning. Shout out to you, kind sir. And we got Aaron, my man. Appreciate you for as well being here. We've got a very interesting one, man. Very interesting one this morning. KP, good to see you, as well as Danny. All right, let's get into the craziness, the Bantalverse. Good to see you. Appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and get into this because there's a lot to go over, and we need to section this off because at 10:30 we've got the House hearing on the COVID pandemic. So we have to be there for that, and we're going to be watching that live. All right, so let's go ahead and move on into the very first bit of this. This is off of Live Now from Fox. As you guys know, I love, their way of breaking news. It's awesome. They're really on top of this shit. This is live right now. I mean, this is a live stream. They're live right now, but we're 2 hours and like 2 hours and 17 minutes behind. So just to give you guys a little heads up, it's not completely live, but yes, this whole live stream is still going. It's still live, and it's as close to breaking news as you can get. Let's get into it.
8:18 is the time.
And I got to unmute
Live
it.
Now from Fox. I'm Gina Francine. Following a new breaking news alert that just came into our Live Now from Fox studios as relates to conflict in the Middle East. You can see that conflict in real time right now, giving you a live look out in Beirut, Lebanon. We know Israeli troops continue their campaign against Hezbollah and launching new airstrikes in Lebanon. You're seeing that in real time. To the left of your screen, you can see plumes of smoke where one just landed. In the Gaza Strip, officials warning of a humanitarian crisis while this conflict with Hezbollah looms. Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst joining us now to explain the very latest in this conflict in the Middle East.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That helps out the show immensely right there. Facts, Redneck.
Southern suburbs hit by Israeli airstrikes on Wednesday as the IDF continues its offensive against the Iran-backed group Hezbollah. Israel's military says...
You know what, Martin? You know what? You read my mind. I thought about it and then I forgot about it. Do you see that? Well, we got our sponsor of the show, Jay Goldbar. He sent over a nice little left-handed tobacco thing. You know what I mean? And this is Blueberry Kush. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get this one on the road. You dig? Yeah. Uh-huh. We're getting down. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's go.
Evacuation warnings before launching the attack. It comes as Israel's new defense minister visited troops in the north, saying the fighting will continue until certain goals are achieved.
We will not allow any agreement that does not include the dismantling.
I really got to give it up to Straight Jacket, by the way. Last night, I had no idea the questions he was going to bring up. I had no idea about any of that. And he did have some banger questions, dude. It was great.
Of Hezbollah's weapons and conditions for returning citizens in the north to their homes.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration announced yesterday it will not withhold weapon shipments to Israel after a U.S.-imposed deadline to get more humanitarian aid into Gaza expired.
What's up, Tats?
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says limited progress has been made, and now he's calling on Israeli officials to allow displaced Palestinians to return
Nicole, though?
The situation is so difficult and so dramatic that to fully redress it, to fully answer the needs of people, the best way to do that is to end the war.
Good morning, Pablo.
It's a different situation on the ground, where international aid groups accuse Israel of failing to meet U.S. demands. UN officials say much of the aid reaching Gaza is not being distributed
due to
ongoing fighting.
Essential commercial goods and services, including electricity, have been all but cut off.
What do you
This
mean I'm behind? What does that mean? What does that mean? Like what type of behind? You got to specify.
has led to increasing hunger.
The State Department says Israel needs to make more changes to improve the humanitarian situation inside Gaza and that the U.S. could take further action against Israel. In Tel Aviv, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
Trey, thank you so much for that detailed report. And as we further discuss
Okay, we're going to hear a tweet over there from the IDF.
the latest with conflict in the Middle East, Israeli Defense Forces putting this out on X.
Oh, I see
commonly
what you're
known
saying.
as Twitter. They put
I see what you're saying. You're talking about the left-handed tobacco. I thought you were talking about the stream, homie. That's what I thought you were talking about. That's so funny.
out Hamas placed a rocket launcher aimed toward Israelis in the humanitarian area in Gaza. So a precise
What's up, Nicole?
IDF strike dismantled it. Prior to the strike, numerous steps were taken to mitigate the risk of harming civilians, including numerous advanced warnings. They go to say, see for yourself how, of course, with that image there on the screen. So a lot to dissect this morning as relates to conflict in the Middle East. Joining us live to further do so, none other than Senior Counsel with the Lawfare Project, Gerard Filitti. Gerard, good morning to you. Always a pleasure to have you.
Good morning. A pleasure to be on.
So a lot to dissect from this report. We've been keeping a close eye on the crisis with Hezbollah as it ramps up out in Lebanon in real
Okay,
time.
I actually
But
don't
it's
know
also
this guy.
important-
This guy I've actually never seen his reports or anything. I really don't know anything about this dude right here.
To take a look at what's happening out in Gaza with Hamas. We know that looming humanitarian crisis also happening in real time. Could you catch us up, please?
Well, we're seeing a continuation of the same. Hamas in Gaza is continuing to use civilians as human shields, as we saw from that IDF tweet. They're using civilian areas as staging grounds for missiles, for attacks. They're intermingling with the civilian population, which is a war crime. This is what we've seen for the past year. Hamas has really embedded itself within the civilian population, which endangers them and makes it difficult to get them aid when that aid is being intercepted by the terrorist organization.
What's up, Steve?
Gerard, you mentioned that aid being intercepted by Hamas, and we saw recently this week how the Israeli government, they held their daily briefing and they showed videos of all of the aid that is just sitting.
Damn, inherited 400 acres. That's humongous land. That's some serious like power, you know?
In an area that they say Hamas has been stealing. What's being done about this? Because as we are looking at a Trump presidency come January, there are concerns of lack from the Biden-Harris administration and that more would need to be done.
What's up,
from
Beezer?
President-elect
Good to
Trump
see you, kind
and his
sir.
cabinet.
Over there in, Florida, South Florida, specifically Mr. Beezer, you know what I mean? And Dean says over here, this is a very important, anytime Dean says anything in here, I mean, he lives right there in Israel, and he's our on the ground witness to this shit. So I don't care what any other reporter says. If it comes from Dean, it's firsthand. You know what I mean? So Dean says that's BS. Food trucks go in daily around 150. The problem is the trailers are waiting to be picked up so it can be distributed. That's where Hamas comes in and F everything up. Got it. Yeah, I think... wasn't that like, or the big ordeal? It's been a big problem with like food supplies with Hamas constantly stealing or, unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Well, the biggest problem that we've seen is Hamas. It's not Israel. And what needs to happen is Israel needs to be able to finish its actions and take out and eliminate the structures of Hamas so that it's no longer operating. For as long as Hamas remains in power, we will continue to see these bottlenecks of aid. We will continue to see Hamas's reluctance to come to the negotiating table, which is why Qatar essentially is
What's
kicking
up,
them out of the
Rebecca? Good
country
morning.
because they're not negotiating in good faith. So we see Hamas being an obstacle to humanitarian aid and to peace. Hopefully, under the Trump administration, I think that we will see the Trump administration.
What's up, Anson Knowles, by the way?
The best way forward is instead of criticizing Israel and demanding that it do something that's not humanly possible, that it help Israel in ending this conflict by defeating Hamas.
You mentioned sites of humanitarian aid, and I put a live look out in Khan Yunis, Gaza.
It's a very good question, Rebecca.
One of the remaining areas where there's an actual working hospital. As we know, many of the other hospitals were taken over by Hamas. We know tunnel networks were running through the bottom.
Mount High is 1,000% correct, and I'm going to give you a big W on this. He says Mount High says looks like the Middle East needs some left-handed tobacco and chill out a bit. No cap, dude. No cap. You know, they're definitely there's a lot of anger there, dude. Axis of resistance is no joke, man. It's no joke.
And so those are pretty much not able to have operations. So just wanted to show in real time what you were discussing as relates to that humanitarian aid. We also know there's concern this morning about getting those remaining hostages home, but if they aren't alive, at least securing their bodies.
Yes, sir, Steve.
No, that's right. We really don't know what the status of the hostages is, in part because Hamas has not been forthcoming with details. So while we hope that many or most of them are still alive, we quite frankly don't know, which is...
You know, I have to agree with this one, Steve Easy. I have to agree with that. Obviously, you know, where do you think the agenda is pushed from? And yeah, where do you think it's the money behind it is from? Yeah, exactly. We got Brother Beezer up in the building, gifting out a membership out to you guys. Whoever got it, man, make sure you thank Brother Beezer for gifting out a member to you guys. That's awesome, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
We have had trying to negotiate an end to this conflict, that Hamas is disingenuous, dishonest, and is
okay. Real quick. Sorry. We got Dean that says they steal it and then they resell it back to the citizens, talking about stores and food and stuff like that. A cigarette, just one, cost $10 today in Gaza. $10 for one single cigarette. Damn, that's fucking evil to do. I mean, that's just insane. Not only do they steal it, but then they sell it back to their own citizens like that. That's sick.
Refusing to come to any sort of negotiating table in good faith. So I think that what we're seeing now is a transition. As we transition from the Biden administration to the Trump administration, we will see Israel being able to take the gloves off and finish Hamas so that we can actually secure the return of the hostages through military means and put an end to Hamas's...
Yeah, I mean, you definitely could tell, you know, what the ordeal is over here. But hey, like I said, I've never even seen the dude. This guy right here, I've never even seen this guy. So he's just doing the typical yap from the propaganda machine.
Governance of the area so that the area can be rebuilt, so that humanitarian aid can come in, so that civilians are able to eat and to sleep in peace. And the only way that's going to happen is if this campaign ends, and the once Hamas...
What's up, Carney? Good morning, kind sir.
Gerard, I've heard a lot of rumblings
as well as Warland
needing to be a primary focal point, and I'd love to get your response about it. Obviously, it's kind of hard to do so, right? When you have Hezbollah on one side, Hamas on the other, and then you have the situation with the Yemen Houthi rebels. Talk about how different this situation is compared to what we're seeing in real time with maybe Ukraine and Russia. You have a specific entity, whereas this one, it seems like three different terroristic organizations that all have a backing of Iran.
In many ways, it's not that different because it is the same enemy. It's all Iran-funded, Iran-trained, and Iranian
Hell
weapons.
Yeah. Hey, Sport Brand. Hey, man. Yeah. What's up, homie? He says... 07 to you, cuh. You know I hit that like. One time for the one time. Hey, for you? Hey, man. Sport Brand is one of my favorite characters on the whole, like, panel verse, you know, that we do. He's one of my favorites. I really like Sport Brand. Like, he's another level funny, dude. He doesn't even try to be funny. That's the best part about it. He's just hysterical. He's got fucking hilarious takes.
Multiple fronts. As you see in Ukraine, you have fighting with the Ukrainian forces that have taken over Russian territory, and you also have fighting in southern Ukraine where Russians have taken Ukrainian territory. The same with Lebanon and Gaza.
Thank you.
You have fighting on two different fronts, and occasionally you have to pay attention to missiles that are being launched from Yemen. I think that what we're seeing is Israel is achieving its military goals in Gaza and in Lebanon to pacify those regions in order to stop fighting there. We've already seen indications that there may be a peace plan or a withdrawal come January or February from Netanyahu's side. His advisors were in Mar-a-Lago yesterday talking to President-elect Trump and then with President Biden later in the day. So we will see potentially an end to those conflicts early next year. As far as the Houthis, that may be an international coalition that's needed to deal with them.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, President-elect Trump, I spoke to some people actually living in Israel yesterday, and many Israelis are holding on to hope because they see Trump as an aggressive leader, and they say he holds a lot of respect and weight as it relates to world leaders across the pond. So they are holding on to hope that once he actually takes that inauguration oath, that he will in fact.
Oh, they definitely have the IDF. Oh yeah, no, they can take over like that. It's just it's very complicated because theoretically it's in their own country, and that's theoretically genocide in itself. So it's very, very complicated, and you can't just start wiping out innocent people. Otherwise, I mean, you could, but you can see how, especially how everyone's got their eye on Israel, like very hardcore right now, because there's a lot of shit going on. Like this is not. They're kind of like doing a 8-war front right now, and so it is a big deal. Everyone's watching.
Able to potentially end the conflict overall.
And that's very possible. We've already seen a number of countries and world leaders start to realign their foreign policy positions just since Trump was elected. So I think that what we will see in January is a clean slate, and we will see a lot of changes on the diplomatic front, with countries willing to either come to the negotiating table in good faith or to cease military action for fear of American responses.
Well, Gerard, always a pleasure to talk international conflict with you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go?
No, just we live in interesting times, and we hope that Iran is not going to re-escalate the conflict. I think Iran had been hoping that Biden would be that Biden-Harris policies would continue under Kamala Harris if she were elected. So they've been holding off on more attacks. But now it'll be interesting to see what play.
What is that true, y'all? There's no way that's true. Straight Jacket refresh. Yeah. He said, never mind. It updated. Yeah, okay. I was about to say I'm gonna be extremely let down right now.
Is out with the impending arrival of Trump.
Gerard, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy and have a safe rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.
I want to further
Absolutely,
share the
KP.
conflict Gerard was alluding to in real time, bringing this shot full out in Khan Yunis, Gaza, one of the remaining hospitals that exists in this region, but also a site where humanitarian aid is given out. And then again, as we further discuss conflict out in Gaza as relates to Hamas, we can't forget about the conflict in real time happening out in Beirut, Lebanon, giving you a live look there as Israeli airstrikes are underway, retaliatory airstrikes as Israeli Defense Forces are calling it. 8:27 is the time. We're going to go to our third 2-minute commercial break of the hour. When we come back, heading out to the Sunshine State, giving you a live look there out in Cape Canaveral. Many people know Cape Canaveral for the cruise ships where people port there, but also it's the site of where the SpaceX launches happen.
They're not the only one.
About to get underway. We'll share that with you.
They're not the only harbor that does that shit. Stop the cat.
Time when we come back.
All right, so let's go ahead and they have a little break, but we don't need to go through the break. Haha.
8:30 is the time, and welcome back to Live Now from Fox. SpaceX preparing to launch another batch of Starlink satellites from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
What's up, Todd?
It's about to happen in real time. Let's watch and listen in together.
Wow, it's about to happen right now.
9, 8.
No way.
7, 6, 5.
This is actually
4,
dope.
3.
Cheers.
2, 1. Ignition and lift off. Go Falcon. Go Starlink.
Love that shit.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We're going into orbit. Yeah, no kidding, brother Steve. No kidding.
Power and telemetry nominal.
It's amazing how quick, man. They're already how high they are. That's crazy.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Beezer, that's dope. He said I can see SpaceX launches from his house. That's insane. Oh shit, Martin. Hopefully they didn't like burn up. Yeah, it's always fascinated me too. 100%. Yeah, Musk sending his supplies over to his home planet. That's hilarious. He is an alien.
Stage 2 engine chill.
That's hilarious. Look how, I mean, dude, that was quick to be able to leave that. We just watched this in like real time. How fast that was to get out into literal space. It's crazy quick. That's right, Pablo. True. Yeah, no. Definitely not what anyone would want right there.
Main engine cutoff. Stage separation confirmed.
Wow. Look at that shit.
Stage 2 startup.
That's so crazy to look at. Holy shit, Dean. That's so heavy right there. None of us over here can relate to any of that. That's so hardcore. Damn. Yeah. Anson, look, you can see how flat the Earth is in this video. Yeah. Totally. Did you hear about Elon's Cybertruck that just got recalled again for the 6th time? That's bad, dude. 6 recalls. Yeah, you're not joking about that, Warlin. Yep. SpaceX does make NASA look like little kids. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's so funny. We got Miss Lotus up in here. Good to see you. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this, watching a SpaceX launch in real time, man. That was actually pretty damn cool. I love how they actually had the cameras on this. The way that they have it set up, really, really cool. And I have to agree with you, Peter, by the way. That's accurate. Yep. We need to have our supplies and resources for our own people, man. That's so funny, Beezer. Oh my God. My niece thinks the world is flat. Just show her this video right here, Rabbit. You know, just look. It's completely flat right here, isn't it? I mean, we're watching this in real time. Some good ass AI, everybody. This is some really good AI, right? That's so funny. Hey, Pablo, I'm with you on that, man. Absolutely. 100%. Got your left-handed tobacco, and then on the right hand, you got your beer, you know? Absolutely. And then, of course, we're always talking shit. Man, that's what we do here. This is really cool to watch, man. And watching how they deploy, man, it's pretty dope, actually. I wonder how much money it costs. What do you guys think per launch on something like this, on a mission like this? How much money do you think goes into this? And how can you reassure that something's not going to go wrong? Like, I can only imagine the precautions that they have to do. Right, Rabbit. What's up, Process? Good morning, kind sir. Always good to see you. That's right, Tats. What's up, brother Dwayne? Good morning. I was over at BD's. Hey, all good. All cool. What's up, Barbie? Good to see you. We're watching a live SpaceX launch as we talk. I don't know if they're supposed to have that.
Stage 1 FCS is saved.
Okay. Some heat on the back of that shit right now.
Stage 1, afterburn shutdown.
Okay.
Stage 2, FTS has safed.
Yeah, no kidding, Steve. No kidding. That would be dope. Absolutely. Get lit up there. We're really out here. We're really in the clouds. Yeah, for real. It's all about perspective, right, Todd? That's right. Yeah, as Brother Dean just said right there, he's 700 meters
Stage
away
1, transom.
from the Gaza border in Israel. Yeah, he hears it all. Like I've actually heard live rounds going off behind him while talking to him. Like you can hear in the background, pop, 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 pop. Helicopters shooting down. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. There's all sorts of shit that goes down over there, man.
Stage 1, landing burn. Stage 2, terminal guidance.
Look at this shit. This is insane. They're going to land on the barge out at sea.
Stage 1, landing leg deploy.
Yes, sir. Do it. Perfect. Look at that shit. Man, they're fucking pros. What's up, Grade 1 Motorsports? Good to see you, kind sir. Look at them. They're just pros at this shit. Like it was fucking nothing. Incredible. What's up, Mr. Boulay? Kind sir, making NASA great again. Oh, wait, that's not NASA. It's Elon. That's right. It is happening. That was a W landing.
Stage 2, shutdown.
Good job, SpaceX. Did good. You did good.
So that wraps the live event happening out in Cape Canaveral, Florida. SpaceX launching another batch of Starlink satellites on this Thursday morning as a part of the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and their latest batch of Starlink satellites. Of course, as we get anything SpaceX related, you can expect to see it in real time right here on Live Now from Fox. Here at 8:40 on the East Coast, let's go to our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour. A live event underway when we come back on the other side.
That's so funny. But I did talk about that a little bit last night, Barbie. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah, pretty dang cool, man, to be able to talk about some of that stuff. It was really cool. I really hope if you guys haven't gone and checked it out, man, you guys got to go and check out Straight Jacket last night. Sorry, I was just making sure that checking on COVID right now. They just started it up. So we're actually going to go ahead and see real quick if there's anybody. No, they're just walking out. Okay, there is actual, they're just sitting down and going to start speaking right now. Okay, so everybody, we're going to go ahead and move this on over real quick, okay? So I told you guys we're going to do a two-parter. We have the House hearing on the COVID pandemic. Before we get into that, before we do that, we're going to watch something, and then we're going to watch, because I actually have not watched the whole thing through and through. And Brother Aaron actually sent this to me last night. Aaron Olinger in the chat, and from the Diamond Effect. And this is something I was like, okay, we got to go ahead and discuss this. And it's ironic that he sent that yesterday, and today we're having a House hearing on the COVID pandemic. So it's just very ironic. So we're going to go ahead and check out this video real quick, this testimony, and then we're going to go ahead and get into this.
Most of you don't know that coronavirus as a model of a pathogen was isolated in 1965. Coronavirus was identified in 1965 as one of the first infectious replicatable viral models that could be used to modify a series of other experiences of the human condition. It was isolated once upon a time associated with the common cold. But what's particularly interesting about its isolation in 1965 was that it was immediately identified as a pathogen that could be used and modified for a whole host of reasons. And you heard me correctly. That was 1965. And by the way, these slides are public domain. You're welcome to look at every single reference. Every comment that I made is based on published material. So do make sure that you look at those references. But in 1966, the very first COV coronavirus model was used as a transatlantic biological
That's crazy right there, by the way, Blair.
Experiment in human manipulation. And you heard the date, 1966. I hope you're getting the point of what I'm saying. This was not an overnight thing. This is actually something that's been long in the making. A year before I was born, we had the first transatlantic coronavirus data sharing experiment between the United States and the United Kingdom. And in
what? In the 60s?
1967, the year I was born, we did the first human trials on inoculating people with modified coronavirus. Isn't that amazing? 56 years ago. The overnight success of a pathogen that's been 56 years in engineering. And I want that to chill with all of you. Where were we when we actually allowed, in violation of biological and chemical weapons treaties, where were we as a human civilization when we thought it was an acceptable thing to do to take a pathogen for the United States and infect the world with it? Where was that conversation? And what should have been that conversation in 1967?
What's up,
that conversation wasn't had. Ironically, the common cold was turned into a chimera in the 1970s. And in 1975, 1976, and 1977, we started figuring...
One and only Oceana, what's up? Hopefully you're doing well over there on Twitch. Appreciate you checking me out over there. I used to stream a lot over there. That was my main platform for a long time. And now I don't really stream over there like that. So we're over here on Insane Wheels on YouTube. You got to come over here and check us out, man.
Figuring out how to modify coronavirus by putting it into different animals, pigs and dogs. And not surprisingly, by the time we got to 1990, we found out that coronavirus as a infectious agent was an industrial problem for two primary industries, the industries of dogs.
So I got the very, very first jab, okay? But then that was actually for work reasons, believe it or not. But that was it. That was it. I didn't do any of the boosters or anything. I didn't do the second, the third, and then the boosters and all that shit. I just didn't do it. I even was bummed out that I did that one, of course. But hey, to this day, knock on wood, I still have not caught COVID. So
dogs and pigs. Dog breeders and pigs found that coronavirus created gastrointestinal problems, and that became the basis for Pfizer's first spike protein vaccine patent filed, are you ready for this, in 1990. Did you hear what I just said? 1990. Operation Warp Speed? I'm sorry. Where's the warp and the speed? Pfizer, 1990, the very first spike protein vaccine for coronavirus.
1990?
Isn't that fascinating?
Wow.
Isn't it fascinating that we were told that, well, the spike protein is a new thing. We just found out that that's the problem. No. As a matter of fact, we didn't just find out it was not just now the problem. We found that out in 1990 and filed the first patents on vaccines in 1990 for the spike protein of coronavirus.
In 1990, the same virus. Oh, my God.
And who would have thought? Pfizer.
Pfizer.
Clearly the innocent organization that does nothing but promote human health. Clearly Pfizer. The organization that has not bought the votes in this chamber and in every chamber of every government.
I was the exact same way in my career field, Steve. It was unfortunate. Yeah. That's the only reason. But of course, I regret it.
Government around the world. Not that Pfizer. Certainly, they wouldn't have had anything to do with this. But oh, yes, they did. And in 1990, they found out that there was a problem with vaccines. They didn't work. You know why they didn't work?
Well, I'm glad that you asked this, Peter, because the hearing that we're going to have today that we're talking about, House hearing on the COVID pandemic, well, the man, the myth, the legend, right, in his own mind, Fauci, is definitely going to be held accountable. And that's why I'm very excited to watch this House hearing right after this, live with you guys.
Turns out that coronavirus is a very malleable model. It transforms and it changes and it mutates over time. As a matter of fact, every publication on vaccines for coronavirus from 1990 until 2018, every single publication concluded that coronavirus escapes the vaccine impulse, because it modifies and mutates too quickly for vaccines to be effective. And since 1990 to
I can only imagine, Barbie, the conversations I'm sure that you've had with your husband, because that's what's crazy about that is if he was actually involved in, like, not that and that obvious, I'm talking about just in vaccines in general. I can only imagine that he has an immense amount of knowledge on the background of this. And I'm sure that this may not be a surprise to you, Barbie, but it is a surprise to me and probably for a lot of people that have been told and brainwashed to believe a certain thing.
2018, that is the published science, ladies and gentlemen. That's following the science. Following the science is their own indictment of their own programs that said it doesn't work. And there are thousands of publications to that effect, not a few hundred, and not paid for by pharmaceutical companies. These are publications that are independent scientific research that shows unequivocally, including efforts of the chimera modifications made by Ralph Baric in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. All of them show vaccines do not work on coronavirus.
And that's the interesting part about it, Steve, because it's very true, because not all vaccines are actually, a lot of the vaccines that you have as a child and stuff like that, those are actual, like, I know it can be debated, but those are been proven to work. I had them. I'm fine, kind of ordeal. My daughter has her shots, stuff like that, and vaccines. But some people decide that, hey, that's not what they want to do for their children, which is their right to make that decision for their kids, by the way.
That's the science. And that science has never been disputed. But then we had an interesting development in 2002. And this date is most important because in 2002, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill patented, and I quote, an infectious replication defective clone of coronavirus. Listen to those words, infectious replication defective. What does that phrase actually mean? For those of you not familiar with language, let me unpack it for you. Infectious replication defective means a weapon. It means something meant to target an individual, but not have collateral damage to other individuals. That's what infectious replication defective means. And that.
Yep. And I had my tetanus shot. I probably am due now again.
Patent was filed in 2002 on work funded by NIAID's Anthony Fauci from 1999 to 2002. And that work, patented at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, mysteriously preceded SARS 1.0 by a year. Dave, are you suggesting that SARS 1.0 wasn't from a wet market in Wuhan?
Right.
Are you suggesting it might?
See, this is what he's getting at here. Yep. Tune in.
Might have come from a laboratory in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill? No, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling you that's the facts.
Damn. He said that with conviction, bro. Holy motherfucking shit. Huh. He said, are you suggesting that this is happening? No, I'm telling you these are the actual facts. Fuck your feelings type shit.
We engineered SARS. SARS is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The naturally occurring phenomenon is called the common cold. It's called influenza-like illness. It's called gastroenteritis. That's the naturally occurring coronavirus. SARS is the research developed by humans weaponizing a life system model to actually attack human beings. And they patented it in 2002.
Damn. Wow, what a fucking testimony that
And in
was.
2003.
That was an insane testimony. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go over to let me go ahead and swap this over because we're going to go and tune into the live hearing right now that's happening. So the title of this is the House hearing on preparing for the next pandemic, lessons learned, and the path forward. All right, so let's go ahead and hear what the people have to say here. I mean, we're talking about the House here, so this is going to be interesting. How this hearing could go, how it may go. I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you. But we will see here in a second. Okay, he's just starting speaking, but why can't I hear shit? Is it muted? No, is he muted? Because I'm not muted. Let me mute, unmute.
Guidance from the
okay.
subcommittee.
It was their side.
So we're here today in community.
They were testing shit.
Of making every.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. We're tuning in. He's saying, okay, let's run it.
Good morning. The Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic will come to order. I want to welcome everyone here today. Without objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. I now recognize myself for the purpose of making an opening statement. I would like to thank the witnesses for their testimony at the Select Subcommittee's final hearing. The COVID-19 pandemic stands as one of the most devastating crises in our nation's history. It claimed the lives of millions of Americans, disrupted livelihoods, and took a profound physical, emotional, and economic toll on families and communities across the country. Sadly, this likely will not be the last pandemic. There will be others that test our nation's preparedness and resiliency in the future. So we're here today to look at the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic in order to prepare for and hopefully prevent the next one. In the last 2 years, the Select Subcommittee has sent 118 investigative letters, conducted 38 transcribed interviews, held 25 hearings, and reviewed nearly 1 million pages of documents. The work of the Select Subcommittee revealed serious flaws in the government's response to the pandemic, underscoring the need for reforms. We saw contradictory guidance from the CDC that sowed confusion and diminished trust. Students were out of the classroom and told to attend school remotely, even when the science had started to clearly demonstrate it was safe for them to be back in the classroom.
Right.
We saw Americans pressured to receive a vaccine. They were assured it would make them a dead end for the virus.
Absolutely, Martin. It's chemical warfare, essentially.
And prevent reinfection and transmission, something that was known to be false based on vaccine trials. And at the NIH, there was a glaring lack of oversight over federal grants that pose risk to public health and national security, and millions in taxpayer dollars funded risky gain-of-function research in China. We found nefarious behavior by several.
Yes, he does do
federally
homeschool with his
funded
kids.
Actions that betray the trust of the American citizens. We must learn from these errors, take the lessons to heart, and make fundamental changes.
So he's really, really low, and I have him maxed out on here. And I'll bring up my board a little bit, as much more. I'm already way above where I should be, but I'll bring up the board a little bit more. But that's going to, hopefully there's not going to be any other loud noises or whatever. I'll have to run to the board and bring down the volume or whatever so it doesn't hurt your guys' ears. Okay, so I brought it up a little bit. Let's go ahead and see how that sounds.
We must establish clearly defined roles.
What's up,
with an
Fester?
overarching structure that empowers
Good to see you, kind sir, over there on the West Coast.
In mitigating the spread of novel viruses.
Thank you, Peter.
As an example. It is essential for institutions such as NIAID and CDC to execute their assigned missions, functions, and tasks, and not stray out of their respective lanes. For example, NIAID is entrusted with vaccine development, while the CDC is tasked with controlling and containing the spread of diseases. Throughout the pandemic, NIAID encroached into CDC's lane
I
by
got to give you that,
advising on
Beezer.
matters pertaining to containing the spread, creating confusion among the American people. Poor decisions made by federal agencies shattered trust in our public health institutions and left Americans questioning the very leadership that was supposed to protect them. Decisions made out of a lack of knowledge and data is one thing, but poor decisions must be corrected. To be
That's right. That's right. Real quick, we're doing a call to action type ordeal. Hey, make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. It's #1 Metric Evolve YouTube, and it's free to do so, man. It helps out the show immensely. So it would be much appreciated if you guys could do that. Thank you, guys.
In the next pandemic, our federal public health institutions
Fucking
must
that.
be accountable to the people again. To be successful, our health organizations must do what they are supposed to do: protect Americans. Stronger oversight, better accountability, and improved structure within our agencies are essential.
Yeah, it started raining here last night, Steve, at 6 p.m. And then it stopped raining, I believe, at like 3 in the morning for us. So it was a good amount of rain. And Tennessee got it first. Well, it actually came up from the south. It came through Louisiana, and it kind of did a arc around Alabama, actually, and it hit Tennessee first. Oh, Tennessee, all of that got it too. And then we got the smoke last night, and it sounds like you're going to get the smoke today.
Congress must consider a dedicated authority to oversee agency practices, ensuring that agencies act solely within their areas of statutory responsibilities and subject matter expertise, and insisting.
Good morning, Brother Lee Lance. Appreciate you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you're having a good morning so far. Hopefully you're having a cup of coffee and enjoying yourself, you know, and not working too damn hard.
Transparent, consistent, and credible.
Yes,
Today's
sir,
hearing
Brother
is steps
Brule.
toward lasting
Absolutely.
reforms that will protect future generations from similar crises. I want to thank you, and I look forward to a strong on-topic discussion today. I would now like to recognize Ranking Member Ruiz for the purpose of making an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When COVID-19 hit our shores in the early months of 2020, our nation began one of the most challenging chapters in its history. We entered a period marked by uncertainty, fear, and a staggering loss of life. And in those initial months, we as members of
Oh,
Congress
shit. Lee says, I just got out of court for a speeding ticket. That's always fun. Damn, dude. Man, that super sucks. What up, Kieran? Hopefully you're having a good one over there.
As a nation, overcame
Kind
our
sir.
differences and came together to protect and provide relief through the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and the CARES Act for the American people in the face of this novel threat. Since that time, thanks to the life-saving impact of vaccines and tireless work of our nation's scientists and public health officials, we have turned the past on the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic. But during that same period, we have also seen an unsettling rise in mistrust for our nation's public health officials and misinformation and disinformation about the very interventions that saved us. As we began the 118th Congress, we had a rare opportunity to take a serious, constructive look at these problems and develop forward-looking solutions to safeguard Americans from current and future threats. And when I became ranking member, I stood ready to work with any member on either
Beezer's like, what is a ticket? What is a ticket? I've never been pulled over.
side of the aisle who would join me in this objective. But instead of taking steps forward to prevent and prepare our nation for future pandemics, this election
Damn, Martin. If you got Instagram, you can send that shit over to me, man.
has spent 2 years fanning the flames of people's mistrust in public health and taking advantage of their fears. And under Republicans' leadership, the Select Subcommittee pursued vendettas against our nation's scientists and public health officials for partisan gain. But whether it was allegations that Dr. Fauci caused and covered up the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic,
Which
or
he
that
did.
our nation's public health officials sought to keep schools and businesses closed, more than 500,000 pages of documents, more than 30 transcribed interviews, and nearly 24 hearings failed to turn up evidence.
That's
to
right, Martin. I
substantiate
got you.
these extreme and baseless claims. And while the Select Subcommittee's probes did reveal discrete issues of misconduct that must be taken seriously, including by Dr. Peter Daszak and Dr. David Morins, we must ask ourselves whether our efforts over the past 2 years have fulfilled the objective of constructively improving our nation's ability to prevent and prepare for the future pandemics on the issues that matter most and that would have the most significant impact in those future pandemics. Look, since day one, I have said that the Select Subcommittee's mission must be collaborating to develop the forward-looking solutions that leave our nation better prepared for future novel viruses. I have wanted to examine how we close pathways for novel viruses to emerge, be they in nature or in a lab, or to focus on how we can strengthen our schools so that they can be better prepared to maintain safe in-person learning during future pandemics, to look at how we can build on progress in strengthening infection prevention and control in nursing homes to keep our
Yeah, but
seniors
we didn't have to have this pandemic.
safe and save lives, to explore how we can lay the groundwork for the rapid development of future vaccines and therapeutics for novel viruses when they inevitably emerge. And we could have done all these important things, things that have a high impact, significant ability to curb the deaths of the next pandemic or possibly even prevent them. And moreover, and I've asked for more over the past 2
Fauci
years,
for
but
prison. Yep.
we didn't. We didn't. And while we haven't yet come together to tackle these serious challenges, challenges facing Republicans and Democrats alike, I have always looked for opportunities to do so. So as we begin today's hearing, I want to acknowledge that I welcome its focus, that I wish that we spent more time pursuing this subject with more experts, and I hope that we can commit to a forward-looking discussion about the road ahead. Because even after 2 years, I still believe that there is a lot more to do, and it's not too late to come together and do the work of saving future lives.
That sounds bomb right
Thank
there,
you, and I
Steve.
yield back.
Our witnesses today are Dr. Lawrence Tabak. Dr. Tabak is the Principal Deputy Director of the National Institutes of Health and served as Acting Director of the NIH from December of 2021 to November of 2023. Dr. Henry Walke. Dr. Walke is the Director of the Office of Readiness and Response at the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Dr. Hillary Marston. Dr. Marston is the Chief Medical Officer at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and was a senior advisor on the White House COVID-19 response team. Pursuant to Committee on Oversight and Accountability Rule 9G, the witnesses will please stand and raise their right hands.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Here we go.
So help you God. Thank you.
A lot of
The
people
record
watching
shows
right
the
now.
Witnesses all answered in the
Just on here, 83,000 people are watching live.
affirmative. The Select Subcommittee certainly appreciates you all for being here today, and we look forward to your testimony. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your written statements, and they will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statements to 5 minutes. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it is on and the members can hear you. When you begin to speak,
What's
the
up,
light in
Nitro?
front of
Good to
will
see you,
turn
kind
green.
sir. Good morning.
After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow. When the red light comes on, your 5 minutes has expired, and we would ask that you please wrap up.
Wrap that shit
I now
up.
recognize Dr. Tabak to give an opening statement.
You just laid down the rules.
Thank you, Chairman Westrup, Ranking Member Ruiz, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to discuss the critical role NIH plays in
Get a camera on the fucking dude speaking right now, please. That would be nice to have the witness on camera.
supporting research necessary for preventing infectious disease outbreaks
They're not going to do it.
and preparing for the next public health threat. We are here today because of our shared belief that taking stock of the lessons learned during the recent pandemic needs to happen sooner rather than later, While far too many lives were lost, we are proud of the research communities and brave research volunteers who participated in NIH-supported research that delivered
Good morning,
a vaccine,
GEG.
diagnostic tests for home use, and a treatment, all in under a year, 3 remarkable feats. It is fair to say that many thousands of additional people would have died were it not for the public's investment in NIH-supported research. But more work is needed to prepare for future threats, and it is essential to leverage what we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. To maximize our readiness for future pandemics, NIH must better coordinate its key assets, such as research and trial networks, as well as standardized platforms to rapidly evaluate the efficacy of diagnostic tests. To ensure that we can evaluate the broadest range of potential interventions, meaningful collaboration across the USG, industry, academia, and the public.
Wow, look at that right here. 41 likes and 41 watching. Okay, chat just got a W on that, dude. I appreciate that, you guys. Thank you guys for liking the video.
Plans must be put into place to assess potential interventions for their value to all communities of our nation. It is not currently feasible to characterize and develop countermeasures for all circulating viruses around the globe. Therefore, the NIH, led by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, has developed a pandemic preparedness plan that prioritizes development of medical countermeasures for representative viruses from each of 9 virus families. The knowledge gained will not only provide ready potential prevention and treatment strategies for the many different viral variants that could emerge, but also the framework for a rapid research and product development.
Make sure you drive safely, Tiffany. No more commenting, because you're driving over there. Unless Brother Lee is, writing for you. Appreciate you.
Family
Good morning.
in the event of an outbreak. In addition, by standardizing reagents, models, and data outputs, NIH's coordinated research networks will be able to more easily share results and collaborate quickly to enhance research efforts. We must also continue to invest in the development of methods for detecting transmission of virus that can be deployed in communities equitably and rapidly across the country. NIH is now applying the so-called RADx approach to address a range of health problems, including technologies to reduce the spread of HIV and developing emergency diagnostics for emerging threats such as avian flu and then the seasonal flu. Finally, NIH knows that we cannot tackle emerging infectious diseases on our own, and we are working in partnerships with others to tackle emerging threats across the globe. One example is Marburg virus disease, a severe and often fatal illness in humans, clinically very similar to Ebola virus disease. Currently, there are no FDA-approved therapeutics or vaccines available. In September of this year, Rwanda reported cases around their country. NIH is working with HHS counterparts and international partners to support research to the ongoing outbreak. NIAID has supported research on candidate therapeutics and vaccines for the disease and has helped make these candidates available in Rwanda to enable patient treatment and vaccination of contacts and healthcare workers. NIH remains committed to supporting these efforts and more.
Yeah, that's when you eat the cherry, SNS. He says, no more eating the fruit that's been soaked in shine for 10 years. Yeah. Just off the cherry alone, you get tipsy, Yeah.
To advance pandemic preparedness and enhance international research capacity to respond to infectious disease. Continued success in NIH pandemic preparedness and biodefense efforts is continued upon sustained congressional support. The president's budget request includes $20 billion in mandatory.
Dude, it would be actually super refreshing if they just said, you know what, this is what happened and why it happened, and just keep it a buck. Exactly. But they have to do these walkarounds and skirt around the bullshit. You know how they'd have to do this shit. But yeah, of course, they're not going to blatantly say that. I would respect it, though.
For the Public Health and Social Services Fund, of which $2.69 billion will support NIH's work. We appreciate your attention and support for these efforts. NIH will continue to meet the public health emergency needs by advancing high priority research for these threats. I thank you for your attention and welcome your questions.
Thank you, Doctor. I now recognize Dr. Walk, and if I mispronounced your name earlier, I apologize. Dr. Walk, you're free to give an opening statement, please.
Thank you. Chairman Winstrup, Ranking Member Ruiz, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, it's an honor to be here today. I'm Henry Walk, the Director of CDC's Office of Readiness and Response, and I'm here today to discuss how CDC is working every day to protect our health security and save lives by putting science into action to help people and communities prevent, detect, and respond to health threats at
Yes, we
home
did,
and
Warland.
abroad. We're seeing more infectious disease threats than ever before, including emerging pathogens like avian influenza, viral hemorrhagic fever,
Emotional damage.
I couldn't help it.
a new illness linked with birth defects. At the same time, many of the leading causes of death and the largest drivers of healthcare costs for Americans are non-infectious diseases such as heart disease, stroke, overdose, and suicide. CDC works in coordination with state and local health departments around the country to provide communities with effective strategies to combat all of these threats. With about 80% of our domestic funds going directly to state and local partners, we dedicate ourselves to partner with communities to protect Americans. We are also in over 60 countries around the world, increasing laboratory capacity and building workforce expertise so we can identify and stop pathogens at their source, protecting Americans at home. The relationships CDC builds in other countries means the first call ministries of health make when a health threat arises is often to CDC. It's a matter of national security that we maintain our world-class expertise to be the first to respond. The COVID-19 response showed a number of important successes, but it also exposed challenges and gaps that need to be filled. CDC, in conjunction with outside stakeholders, conducted an extensive review of our processes and organizational structure to document lessons learned.
He almost
and
looks
identify
asleep.
corrective
He's
actions.
not, but he almost looks
As the committee
asleep.
has heard before, the report identified a number of areas for improvement, including streamlining communication, sharing data faster, and promoting partnerships. CDC has implemented over 160 key actions to drive accountability. These changes are seen every day in how CDC operates. Starting last respiratory season, CDC now has a public dashboard displaying COVID-19, flu, and RSV information all in one place. CDC recently made the first of its kind awards with 5 private sector clinical laboratory companies that provide a warm base of support for rapid and efficient distribution of diagnostics. And we're getting data out faster with the launch of the One CDP data platform that leverages data reported to CDC from thousands of sources to programs across the entire agency and shares it back to in an action-oriented format for federal, state, and local partners. I'm proud of the work we have done, but I have been at CDC long enough now to know that we can't do it alone. One of the core themes identified in moving forward was an effort to improve and modernize the agency, was that CDC needed to bolster our core capabilities of data and analytics, laboratory capacity, public health workforce, and domestic and global readiness and response. Strengthening these core functions would allow CDC to be nimble enough to address any health challenge, but we need the necessary funding and authority from Congress if we're going to make the type of lasting change needed to respond to the next pandemic, or better yet,
Well,
to prevent it.
I'm trying to understand though, what is it exactly that you want to regulate now? Like, what is it that you're trying to regulate? I'm trying to hear you out, but I'm hearing a lot of just prattle. Really, it's a lot of prattle. And by the end of it, he goes, "Yeah, I think we should have, we need regulation. It needs to be passed through Congress, blah, blah, blah." Well, what kind of regulations do you want to do?
Fortunately, public health funding is boosted when there is a crisis, but much of that funding is allowed to lapse during peacetime. We've seen this with H1N1, Ebola, Zika, and now COVID-19. These resources let us create incredible tools that can be used in an emergency, but also support situational awareness for other pathogens. For example, our national wastewater system that gives us an early look at how diseases are progressing, or the READY platform that supports a response-ready agency to use data to make decisions near real time, or our Center for Forecasting and Outbreak Analytics that can now show us when and where an emerging threat may go, helping communities best target limited resources. And more broadly, continuing to modernize our public health data capabilities. Without increased and sustained resources, these capabilities capabilities, which were all largely built with one-time emergency funds, are at risk of going away. Without authorities that let us surge and sustain our workforce for the next emerging threat, we'll be back where we started before COVID. CDC works every day to achieve our mission of protecting.
We've been watching some crazy money being spent in the last couple of days, like 3 days straight. We've been watching some crazy shit. More government spending all this cash and wanting to spend a whole bunch of cash, just like they're trying to do with the UN. Like, dude, come on, man. Like, this shit is crazy.
Your communities from health threats. But we can't be the national security asset Americans deserve without bipartisan support. I look forward to speaking with you today on the ways that we can enhance our collaboration to protect health and improve lives, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Well, this is why I'm sitting back and just observing at this point, because obviously the more regulations, that's what we need. We need more government control on us. Or did you just see that how America is starting to respond and wake up to shit, for real?
Thank you. I now recognize Dr. Marston.
And also the UFO shit. Yep.
Thank you so much, Chair Wenstrup, Ranking Member Ruiz, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss FDA's pandemic preparedness efforts. Recent events, whether the COVID-19 pandemic, the presence of highly pathogenic avian influenza in dairy cattle, or the emergency-induced supply chain disruptions that we're seeing with Hurricanes Helene and Milton, have all underscored the need to continue to optimize our nation's preparedness and response capabilities. We know
that's right, Todd.
The profound impact that public health emergencies and our ability to respond to them have on American lives. This can range from how global supply chains affect access to foods and medical products to the value and importance.
Do you have one of those fast chargers, Brother SNS, or is it just a, normal charger? That's unfortunate, man.
Of vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics to address those public health threats, reduce suffering, and ultimately save lives. The additional authorities and funding requested in the fiscal year 2025.
Listen, that's like the cure-all be-all right there. More whiskey and more titties. Absolutely.
President's budget are necessary to address future public health threats effectively. Specifically for FDA, our public health preparedness priorities are: 1, providing greater transparency into supply chains; 2, fostering medical countermeasure development; and 3, ensuring operational readiness and surge capacity within the agency. So first, supply chains. We need greater transparency into supply chains to help ensure access to critical medical products. Supply chains are subject to a range of market forces that are well beyond FDA's scope. For example, generic drugs, particularly generic sterile injectables, are most vulnerable to shortage. We know this, but that's due to market dynamics, including competition, investment needs, and uncertain demand, all dynamics beyond the FDA's scope. FDA has worked within its current authorities to find ways to prevent and mitigate medical product shortages. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, we've worked with manufacturers to successfully mitigate or prevent 586 drug, biologic, and medical device shortages. We rely on notifications from manufacturers to help prevent supply disruptions, and we've identified changes that could help the agency better mitigate or prevent shortages. Specifically, FDA seeks authorities to require FDA notification when there's increased demand for a product, require manufacturers to report sources of active pharmaceutical ingredients and the extent of manufacturer reliance on them, require labeling to include the original manufacturer and supply chain.
Listen, anybody that sips a drink two-handed, okay, I caught that. Anybody that sips a drink two-handed, I don't trust you.
And require manufacturers to notify FDA about interruptions or discontinuances in medical device manufacturing outside of public health emergencies. Second, the COVID-19 pandemic underscored the importance of fostering medical countermeasure development as a preparedness measure. Throughout the COVID-19 response, FDA scientists and employees worked around the clock trying to provide guidance to manufacturers and researchers, minimizing the time between clinical development, manufacturing scale-up, and regulatory review. This is how FDA was able to help make critical medical countermeasures, especially COVID-19 vaccines, available as quickly
This is
as
so funny.
possible based on our stringent scientific and regulatory standards. We're leveraging the lessons learned from the COVID-19 response in our everyday reviews, including reviews of platform technologies and improving communications with manufacturers.
This is just
Third,
prattle.
ensuring operational readiness.
I swear, this is just prattle. Typical bullshit.
Surge capacity is critical in emergencies. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw FDA staff pulled away from other work to focus on pandemic work for 3 years, leading to backlogs and fatigue. Creating a specialized program to defend against emerging pathogens and other threats would leave the FDA best positioned to respond to future emergencies and focus experienced staff to work quickly on medical countermeasure development. Critical
Real quick,
investment-
Frank asks, how's the cat doing? Well, she's right here. And I gave her, so she had a little bit of a, basically an upper respiratory, not infection, but well, maybe. But anyways, I got the medication ordered from my sister, and I received it last night because she's a vet for the actual state. So anyways, I got all of her meds, and you guys saw that her eyes were a little covered up and stuff like that from her having that infection or whatever. And so I have the eye cream for her, and that cleared up like overnight. And also, like when she purrs, it doesn't sound like there's like a whole bunch of like phlegm or anymore, which is great. Let me grab her. She's right here. You sleeping? She loves to sleep on my foot. When I'm streaming, she sleeps on my foot. It's hilarious. So now you can see her eyes are a lot more cleared up. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Yeah, it's a lot more cleared up. And she's doing great. She's trained to go, in 2 days, she got trained to use the cat box and all that stuff. Awesome, dude. Like, she only messed up one time, one night, the first night, and that was it, you know. And now she's totally trained. She gets up in the middle of the night, goes to the box, runs around for a second, then falls right back to sleep. It's great.
Are also needed to increase FDA's inspectorate workforce capacity to conduct oversight of those products.
What's up, Joseph?
The key lessons learned.
My
and
man,
proposals I'll
stop the
discuss
cat.
today
Come on,
will
man.
bridge key
Stop the
gaps
cat.
To enable a robust and timely response. to
Yes,
future
Warlen.
emergencies. They'll help
It's just fucking prattle.
enhance early detection, provide safe, effective, and accessible medical products, and maintain health system capacity. We look forward to continuing to work with Congress to improve public health preparedness. Thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah, no
testify.
fucking kidding,
I look
Steve.
forward to your questions.
Thank you. I now recognize myself for questions, but I do want to take a moment to thank you all again for being here. And I will tell you, I appreciate your constructive reforms
That's a fucking nice kitty right there.
you
Mm-hmm.
talk about, actions that have
Decent.
been taken since the pandemic response, the idea of solutions.
Yeah, that's right.
And honest self-reflection that we all need to undergo if we are going to do better in the future. And I do hope that there could be robust work with Congress and the agencies and our federal government to do better. One of the things that we wanted to look at is the grant process. And we looked into that. And there seemed to be, from Dr. Fauci's testimony, several flaws that I think we can correct. And we can correct them together for sure.
Good.
And improving the process. But part of that process is holding those that get grants accountable for their own responsibilities.
Fucking A, absolutely.
HHS immediately suspended and proposed debarment for both EcoHealth and Dr. Dazik. Just following up, our understanding is that this process remains ongoing at this time.
That's correct.
And does NIH still support the debarment of EcoHealth and Dr. Dazik?
We do, and we have provided all necessary documents to the department.
Thank you.
That's what I'm
At the
saying,
time
Rebecca.
HHS announced the suspension, EcoHealth had 3
I'm glad he's in that chair.
active grants with NIH. These grants have monies already outlaid and obligated. Does the suspension stop future funding on these grants, even if the money has already been obligated but not outlaid?
I believe he's the
Activity occurred before the
I believe he's the main speaker for the U.S. House subcommittee.
suspension. We are by law obligated to reimburse them on a case-by-case basis. Any activities after the suspension are not.
I'm trying to remember it, Steve.
reimbursable.
Did NIH make any efforts to claw back?
Doesn't ring a
already
bell, though.
outlaid funds, or just realized you couldn't?
This has not occurred. This is going forward from the suspension. They are not.
Yeah, it's a
allowed to
House.
get additional funds.
But
Thank
it,
you.
it
One
is
final
the
question,
subcommittee, though.
For you, Dr. Dazik has routinely said that the regulations did not require that he provide NIH with lab notebooks.
Chairman of subcommittee. There we go.
from
That's
the
what I was
Wuhan
looking for.
Institute
Not
of Virology.
speaker. The chairman. Yes.
Last year, NIH put out a new rule regarding this issue. So just to clarify, when NIH asked for these lab notebooks, was Dr. Dazik required to produce them?
He was indeed.
Thank you. Dr. Walk, the select subcommittee went to
Appreciate that,
Southeast
Lee.
Asia and Cambodia and Laos in particular, some of us, to get firsthand experience on how we work with these countries to protect the United States. And quite frankly, I find it, as we discussed yesterday, a good form of diplomacy for the United States. But while we were there, we had meetings with CDC employees that were in country. Now, you worked in global health. Do you think having U.S. government personnel in
I will, by
countries
the way,
to try to
Evil.
prevent pandemics from reaching our shores has a large return on investment? And briefly, why?
Thank you for the question. Absolutely. CDC has over 60 country offices spread around the world. We have CDC staff embedded in ministries of health to work on surveillance or data collection, laboratory capability, and it's trying to help improve their workforce. So when there is a cluster of illness anywhere in the world, our staff can work closely with ministries of health to detect that outbreak and then to try to rapidly control the outbreak at its source, so that actually maintains that outbreak is maintained actually within the country or the region and never makes it to the U.S. So it's a national security asset to have these global health.
What's up, Miran?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I got to see
Good
that
morning.
firsthand and receive praise to the United States for our efforts in that area, and it does reduce the potential for a pandemic to reach our
I need a little bit of this for this government prattle.
The CDC issued hundreds of guidelines during the pandemic. The federal and state governments took these guidelines as a step further and imposed mandates.
Cheers.
We had mask mandates, vaccine passports. These types of mandates blocked individuals from seeking personalized medical advice from their doctors very often. Do you think in future pandemics, ensuring the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship is vital? Your microphone, please.
Thank you. Thanks again for the question. The COVID vaccine saves millions of lives. Related to
What?
the need for
Bruh.
Stop the cap.
Come on, bruh.
continued vaccine. I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your question. I
I
apologize.
said, do you think
What?
that in a future pandemic, ensuring the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship is vital? I think that with mandates, we eliminated too much of the discussion that a patient can have with their doctor.
I gotta
when we
admit,
talk
he did a
about-
very good job on the questions, by the way. He killed those questions. It was great.
Yeah, the vaccine saved millions of lives. I'm convinced of that. But there were things it couldn't do. And patients wanted to know that. So I just wanted your take on maintaining that doctor-patient relationship.
Yes, no medical intervention, including vaccines, is risk-free. So it's very important.
Cheers, Mile High.
For the patient or the person receiving that medical intervention, a vaccine, for example, have that strong relationship with their provider, so they can so they have the medical advice that they need. Some of these.
Sorry, I had to blow some ash that just came off and I hit my board. So I was not agreeing with that, by the way.
Related to the medical intervention. So that CDC makes recommendations for the population, for large communities, for communities at large, but maintaining that relationship between the provider and the patient helps interpret those recommendations for the individual.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Marston, in your written testimony, you emphasize the need for greater transparency within the medical product supply chain. The supply chain issue is very important to me. To help prevent and mitigate drug shortages. The COVID-19 pandemic underscored just how fragile this supply chain is, as unprecedented demand led to
Much
severe
love, brother
shortages.
Shadow. Appreciate you, bro.
Can you outline
Be
specific
safe out there,
steps
man.
the FDA can take and maybe has started to take to strengthen supply chain resilience and prevent drug shortages during future public health crises?
Well, first I want to say I
What's up,
appreciate the
Cuzzo? Good to
question
see you,
because
man.
These shortages are incredibly painful for communities across the country. They are not.
If
a
you
new
guys are
problem.
just now tuning in, this is the House hearing, which they're quoting this, the preparing for the next pandemic, lessons learned, and what was the last part of it, and the path forward. So basically, you have a whole bunch of government people in here, and in the sense of doctors and stuff trying to basically have more regulations on, for instance, like COVID and stuff like that regarding medical. And yeah, it's rough to hear because it's a lot of government prattle.
But they certainly were laid bare during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, it's important to recognize what's causing these shortages. And the primary causes of the shortages, the long-term causes, are these weaknesses in the markets, right? These
Absolutely,
generic
Nitro, be
sterile
safe, man.
injectables in particular. Not everybody can make them. They need to be sterile. That's an important thing. You know this as a physician.
Absolutely, Warland. Be safe out there as well,
They can't be
man.
made
And hopefully you
everywhere,
feel
and
good.
They are. They require additional upkeep of those lines, additional care, the ability to have buffer stocks. All of these things cost money, and unfortunately,
You know what's fucking crazy about that, Anson? Before anybody from Alabama found me on here, I was actually really considering running for local office. Now, the thing is I don't think that here's my honest truth. I don't think that the Conservative Party at all would really appreciate, first of all, my rhetoric. And also, I'm kind of I am in the media. And I don't know if they would actually accept that. You know, if it was a left party that I was going for, they would accept it most likely because it's a more liberal mindset as well as their politics, right? And so that's something that I really was thinking about. And I really wanted to actually get involved, but then I kind of have that understanding of that they would try to control what I'm going to say. And there's no way anybody's going to control what the fuck I'm going to say. This is not going to happen. By the way, real quick, we got brother Lee Lance that just sent in a $5 Cash App, man. Thank you for that. For the 41, is that what you said? For the 41? What is that, man? What is that in the comments? You got to tell me what that means. I appreciate that, though, kind sir. Appreciate that. Thank you for your patronage.
Profit margins.
It
are
goes
really
very far,
resilient.
man.
That is quite clearly beyond the mission of the FDA, but it is something where we are often trying to work on the fallout from those issues.
What's up, Kel?
One of the things that we've been doing is trying to partner across government for solutions that can address those market-based issues. But for the FDA in particular, there are some things that we can do to improve our ability to prevent and mitigate shortages. First, we really need to be able to know when there's a rise in demand that these companies can't keep up with. So currently they
Good
are
point.
required to tell us if a line goes down and they can't keep up with supply. But if there's a spike in demand, for example, as we saw with the children's analgesics a couple of years ago, they don't need to tell us about that. So that sets us back in our ability to mitigate. Second, they don't need to specify their reliance on different manufacturers for active pharmaceutical ingredients. They don't need to put those things on their label. So
Hell
we have
yeah. By the
proposals that
way,
would
real quick, we got to stop this, Dr. Prattle for a second. Real quick, brother over there, Redneck Motorcycle Whips, man, hit the, if you guys go over to his website over there, he's got an immense catalog and an awesome shit, dude, like super high quality. Coupon code, if you use Insane Wheels, one word, just like my channel, you guys will get a 15% off on the full website. And thank you over there. Shout out to you guys, not me. So I appreciate you guys, man. Hey, appreciate it.
address both of those and require that. And third, medical device manufacturers actually aren't required to tell us about any supply disruptions outside of a public health emergency. So if a tornado takes out your factory, which unfortunately is a painfully real example, you're not required to tell the FDA. We might call you, we might see it in the news, but it's not a requirement. So that's, again, something that we want to address.
Well, I don't know if you had previously read my next question, but it sounds like it.
I see. For the 41, that's what it was. For the 41 likes, and it was 41 viewers. Yeah, that is legendary. Now I understand.
Up a manufacturing reserve corps. In essence, to have trusted
W.
companies with capabilities ready to make things like mask, hand sanitizer, gowns, or vaccines, all that in place. So how can the FDA improve its coordination with manufacturers and healthcare providers to anticipate and meet surges in demand? And how can Congress help with that as well?
Are you talking about like my sound bites and stuff like that? Is that what you're talking about? Like these?
Oh shit! Stupid. Emotional damage.
Those are what you're talking about? Man, I can get all that shit for you. Don't worry about that. I got you.
So maintaining
You just tell me what you want, like the
is
sounds. I
one of
got
our
you.
Lessons learned from the pandemic, that early and often those communications are really what's needed to make us most effective. In terms of
Thank you, brother Steve Easy.
manufacturers, our small but mighty drug shortages staff is in close touch with manufacturers of some of these critical medical products, understanding.
Yeah,
their
that's a big W,
capabilities
Lee.
To make these products and be
Now I
able
get
to
it.
Respond, particularly for critical medical products, should a supply disruption occur. As I mentioned, generic sterile injectables, particularly drugs like penicillin. These are things that are
Yes, you can macro any key. You can have even a secondary keyboard, for instance. You could have a real keyboard, and you can macro those to be basically a soundboard too. You could do anything. But yeah, that's hey, technology is fun, man.
difficult to make, right? Not everybody can make them. So it would be important to make sure that those manufacturers are qualified and have good processes in place, don't have an issue with cross-contamination, for example, which could end up in quite a bit
Wrap
of
this up, woman.
I now recognize
Thank
the ranking
you.
member Dr. Reese from California for
Damn.
5 minutes of questions. Or as you see.
Thank you.
Oh, here goes
As
the
a
here
select
goes the guy that sips his drink with two hands.
Committee gathers today, our nation faces a pivotal moment when it comes to the future of the pandemic prevention and preparedness. Thanks to the tireless work of the agencies and the individuals in those agencies sitting before us over the past 4 years, our nation overcame the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic and has taken meaningful strides to strengthen our public health infrastructure going forward. But the possibility of a future pandemic remains very real. Even today, we are facing emerging viruses like H5N1, which will continue to require investments of time and resources to contain. So we must keep our foot on the gas.
Yep. I saw what the rumor was essentially.
If
Yeah.
it might be tempting to let up. Dr. Walk, let me begin with you. I understand an essential component of fortifying CDC's readiness for future outbreaks is providing your agency with expanded authority for robust public health data collection. Why is this reform so important, and what other reforms should Congress consider going forward to ensure your agency is best positioned to respond to emerging viruses?
Thank you for the question.
No fucking kidding, Anson.
As the virus was changing,
We have watched like 3 days straight of just endless money being dumped into worthless shit. Just endless. It's crazy, actually. It's mind blowing.
Beta, Delta, and then
We should have priorities in this
we
shit.
had difficulty trying to understand where transmission was happening. It was difficult to integrate our laboratory data with our hospital data, with our case-based information in a way that we could actually create dashboards and make quick decisions on what to do.
What's up, Pitbull? Appreciate you, my man, over there in England.
Around case reports.
Good to see you, man.
With sustained investment from Congress, we made incredible progress and pulling together that information and creating those systems so we could create that interoperability between all those various systems. But in order to keep going forward, we're going to need sustained investment in our data platform.
No kidding, Pitbull.
We have a large number of jurisdictions now who still, healthcare providers are entering information in manually actually to report case reports. We've made incredible strides in electronic case reporting, moving from 187 healthcare facilities before COVID now to over 45,000 healthcare facilities who are able to quickly give us information around case reports. So we need to continue that investment.
No fucking kidding. No fucking kidding. Just like how we were just watching the climate, what was it? The climate change summit, where they're begging for $100 billion per year. Like, bro, this is where we fund that. That's our money that goes to this shit. It's crazy to me. It's insane. It's actually insane. There's so much greed and fucked up shit in this world, man. It's really, especially when you dive deep into these, it really upsets, because you really know what's happening, and it really is upsetting. It very much is.
Actually improve it. We need authorities, though, as well. Early in the pandemic, early in an outbreak, before an emergency, a public health emergency is declared, we have to collect information very quickly to understand what's happening, as in COVID. And we need those policy changes to enable us to collect the information that's needed to make decisions. That's a core capability related to data, but I'll stop there.
Thank you. Dr. Marson, one of the great...
That's right, Steve. If there's all these good women out here, why is the world still dirty and trashy all over the place, man? Everything should be clean and everyone should have a sandwich type shit. No, you don't see any of that shit.
Success stories of the pandemic.
Because they all 304s out there.
In which scientists and the FDA brought a safe and effective COVID-19 vaccine.
Not all. I'm just kidding.
And distributed throughout our nation. What lessons did FDA identify from its work on the COVID-19 vaccine? And how can Congress help to ensure these best practices remain in place for emerging public health threats going forward?
Thanks so much for that question and for your kind words about the work of the professionals at the FDA. So couldn't agree more with you. I joined the FDA in 2022, so I was an observer of that work, but really a tremendous effort. A couple of lessons that we learned. Number one, continued transparency.
Exactly. And that was my point yesterday about Canada with the Second Amendment. Okay, us here, we have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech here because we have a Second Amendment. You know what I mean? Like, we can actually back up our shit. Unfortunately, the government says that you have freedom of speech over there, for instance, but they can pull that shit. What's to stop them from just pulling that shit from you guys? Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? Yeah, see, this is where you need to have a Second Amendment, essentially. And this is what makes America the best place on the planet.
We have made sure that our advisory committees are airing the data that they're seeing, that we're putting out summaries of our views of our own analysis of the data that's provided by manufacturers. We do our own analysis, right? We don't just take things that are given to us. Our professionals look into the data themselves. Second, we have certainly learned a lesson, and we have taken this lesson.
Everybody wants our fucking guns, including Haitians. Yeah. Where do you think they got that shit from? Yeah, they get it from us, right there in Florida, dude. Yeah, it's crazy.
Across the FDA for various medical countermeasures, the importance of telescoping to industry, what our expectations are going to be what sort of information that they're going to need to provide to us. So we do that in the form of guidance, and we've done it in vaccines several times, therapeutics, and diagnostics. Third is this issue of surge capacity. Our folks are incredibly dedicated and they worked around the clock. As I mentioned, that's led to backlogs, it's led to fatigue. If we had a cadre of folks who were experts in medical countermeasures during quote unquote peacetime, they could work on those preparedness medical countermeasure development issues and during a response could jump into action. That would be tremendously helpful for the organization.
Thank you.
Thank you for finishing that
Let me
up.
conclude with you, Dr. Tabak.
Damn.
While the Select Subcommittee's efforts did not ultimately
It's so
shed
hard
light
to
on
listen
the
to this.
origins of the novel coronavirus, they did underscore the importance of addressing pathways for potential pandemics both in nature and in labs. How can we balance the need for continued essential research to identify and get ahead of future viruses with the imperative that research take place safely and in a manner that is transparent to American taxpayers?
Well, as you point out, we do need to take the appropriate steps to ensure that any research of this type is done in a safe and efficient manner. But I think we do need to continue the long-term investment in basic discovery, because without the fundamental knowledge of for example, the different viral families for which we have less information, we would be working blind should one of those escape to be a new emergent pathogen. We also have to continue to build on the infrastructure that we have in place to ensure that we are ready for the next pandemic, and that includes things like pathogen surveillance and genomic sequencing and informatics and structural biology, so that we have better understanding of what potential targets might be. And finally, we have to maintain a flexible domestic and global clinical trial network infrastructure so that we can rapidly deploy potential countermeasures and test them for their efficacy.
Motherfucking facts, GEG.
And what would the ramifications be of cutting funding to NIH for this and other essential research as a knee-jerk reaction to the possibility that the novel coronavirus emerged from a lab incident?
The need for basic discovery is essential. We need to understand who the pathogens are. We need to understand how the pathogens transmit. We need to understand what their mechanisms.
Damn
of
cats
action
tearing up the
are,
house. Just kidding.
what type of disease, what pathology they cause, and we need to support the key infrastructure that is essential going forward if we're to successfully defeat any emergent pathogen.
Okay, I'm pretty confident that our own labs could attain that.
What's up, Jay? Good to
level
see you, my
of
man.
Security. The question is, how do we work with adversarial countries to ensure that they're not
Vengeful, my
that they're up to
man.
code
Let's
and
go.
they're transparent?
As you know, international collaboration and research is essential, and the pandemic underscored that. But unfortunately, when there are instances of non-cooperation, we have to, call that out and hopefully work, through both diplomatic and other channels to try and bring those organizations into a more favorable compliance.
Thank you. Dr. Walk.
Just prattle.
You mentioned earlier that having investments in personnel in other countries is very important to be able to monitor any emerging virus. In your opinion, do we have we mapped the high risk animal to human potential transmission locations? Are we in the right places?
Thank you for the question. Related to emerging threats, there's a lot of work being done both within CDC and public health agencies, as well as the academic world, around where the next emerging threat might be. There's a number of issues here related to deforestation, for example, and population movements. But we do have staff actually in most of these areas, for example, in South America or in Africa, where we're seeing some of these emerging threats. We also place our staff where there's a large burden of disease, for example, HIV or malaria or tuberculosis.
Hey, shout out to you, brother Steve. There's no way. I hope that this is not like a 3-hour ordeal. Like, they better be wrapping this shit up. They better be.
A number of different criteria when we make decisions about where to put our staff. But as you have said, it's incredibly important to actually have that face-to-face people on the ground working side by side with ministries of health, because when something happens, actually they then work with our staff and require and ask for technical assistance, and we're actually able to have that partnership.
In what other ways, in addition to technical assistance, are we building the host country's capacity to identify any emerging viruses and to better respond to those emerging viruses, to contain it there?
In a similar way that we're trying to build capacity in this country in data and analytics and laboratory capacity, that trained public health workforce, and for domestic and global response, we do similar things actually in other countries. We embed within the laboratories and try to make sure that they have the validated assays available. We work with their data systems to make sure they can connect with each other. We actually train their field epidemiologists so that they can know how to go out and collect the information.
I really hope that's not damn true, dude.
Of these pathogens.
Well, I really appreciate all of you. Thank you, all of you individually, for your tireless work for our government, for the American people. Thank you for your work during the pandemic, and thank you for being here. I yield back.
I now recognize the
Jesus.
chairman of the full committee, Mr.
Suck them off more.
Thank you. Dr. Tabak, is Dr. David Moran still employed by the NIH?
He is still an employee.
When you testified this summer, I asked you a series of questions about some of Dr. Moran's actions. The first was that if the NIH FOIA office teaches employees how to avoid FOIA, you said, and I quote, I certainly hope not. Are you aware one of your former FOIA officers invoked the Fifth Amendment when asked about this issue?
I have learned that in the lay press, yes.
I then asked if Dr. Moran's deleting emails and using his personal email to hide his relationship with EcoHealth was consistent with NIH policy, and you said no. Do you stand by that?
Absolutely.
I then asked if Dr. Moran sharing internal NIH deliberations or helping EcoHealth craft responses was consistent with NIH policy. You said, quote, if those actions occurred, they would not be consistent. Do you stand by that?
Yes, sir, I do.
If I show you proof of those actions, will you take more employment action against Dr. Moran's?
Ooh.
Sir, we are taking the action.
It's a yes or no.
In all cases.
Okay. On the screen in an email chain shows an internal NIH email about a draft letter from Dr. Fauci to Senators Graham and Paul. Dr. Moran's forwarded this first to his Gmail and then to Dr. Dassett. Does sharing that draft letter violate NIH
See,
policy?
and this is why I think, like, if I ran, for instance, I believe people would appreciate me being 100% straightforward. Like, I believe that the people would like that, but I don't believe that. This is what I don't believe is essentially the party wouldn't like it. I don't think the party would like it because I don't only speak for one side. I speak for, I would be speaking for all of Alabamians. You know what I mean? I'd be speaking for everybody here in the state. So yeah, you know, you have to think outside of your own convictions on you have to do, of course, what you want. You have what you think is right, of course. But I think that's the difference between these politicians that actually get in and the ones that, you know, not necessarily have the biggest funding behind them or whatever the case is. But yeah.
Yes, of course.
The next
Hell yeah. Good job on the likes, you guys. Thank you.
On the WHO Origins report, Dr. Moran's forwarded this first to his Gmail and then to Dr. Dassett.
Be good, Brother Lee. Be good out there, man. Be safe.
Deliberation violate NIH policy.
Yes, it does.
The next email is Dr. Dassett soliciting Dr. Moran's help in responding to NIH. Dr. Moran's responded with his edits to the letter. But let's not take Dr. Moran's word for it. The attachment includes comments and track changes done by Dr. Moran's. Sir, does an NIH employee editing a grantee's oversight response.
It's probably
to
because you
NIH.
have Prime. The difference of having Prime and not having Amazon Prime. I think that might be the difference for you guys in the
violates NIH
chat.
policy.
It absolutely is inappropriate.
Have you read Dr. Moran's transcript of his interview before the select subcommittee?
I have not.
Well, I'd like to share with you a few examples of his testimony. Dr. Moran's was asked if he ever deleted an official record from his NIH account, and he answered no. On January 21st, 2022, Dr. Moran's wrote, and I quote, "Twice in the past, including a month or so ago, I deleted everything with EHA people from my entire Outlook," end quote. Then on August 1st, 2022, Dr. Moran's wrote, and I quote, "Hopefully no problems with the emails that came to me at my NIH address. I deleted them quickly," end quote. Did Dr. Moran's lie to Congress?
Sir, I don't know if he successfully deleted the emails or not.
Oh, stop the cap,
If he's a
bro.
Capstone employee, he would not be able to delete the
Oh, you're
emails.
you're cornered, homie.
What's out of his?
Well, he thought he deleted them.
Well, he may have thought that, but if he's a Capstone employee,
So
it would remain in the record.
it looks to me like he lied to Congress.
Oh
That's
shit.
felony.
Again,
Dr. Moran's was asked if he provided any advice to Dr. Daszak on how to respond to NIH oversight requests, and he said no. As we discussed and you saw earlier, Dr. Moran's personally edited a letter for Dr. Daszak that was directly related to NIH oversight of EcoHealth, the company at the center of the entire COVID pandemic. Did Dr. Moran's lie to Congress?
Again, those types of actions would be completely inappropriate.
Yes. The answer is yes. The evidence is on the screen.
Damn.
There's evidence that Dr. Moran's violated numerous NIH policies and lied to Congress multiple times. Dr. Tabak, will you fire Dr. Moran's?
As you know, we don't discuss specific personnel matters. but
Wow.
We are following all of our procedures to the letter.
Well, this appears to me the perfect example of bureaucratic overreach.
Yep.
The type of bureaucratic overreach I think the American people.
Hold on. This is way too good right now. Hey man, Mr. Comer. Good job.
Loud message to Washington that they're fed up with, and they want the bureaucracies dismantled. And one thing where I think we have bipartisan agreement is that there were a lot of mistakes made during the COVID pandemic. That's what the purpose of this select committee is for, and I think this committee's been very effective in getting the truth to the American people. I look forward to working with the incoming Trump administration to get rid of waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement in the government and get rid of federal
Be
employees
good, brother Steve. Be good out there.
stand in the way of trying to bring transparency and efficiency to the federal government. Thank you, Chairman Wintrip. Thank you for the great work you've done on this select committee. And I yield
Mr.
back.
Coomer. Yeah. Mr.
Thank you. I now
Coomer.
recognize
What
Dr.
up, trigger
Barrett from
warning?
California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The title of this is Lessons Learned on the Path Forward. And there were a lot of lessons learned, and there's a lot that we should be thinking about. This is an area that I've spent my 6 terms in Congress thinking about pre-pandemic. My staff would early on often wonder, like, why are you spending so much time thinking about this? I'd say, go watch Contagion. And unfortunately, we lived it. That wasn't the hope. Post Ebola, we put in some things in place, in terms of having someone who was in charge of pandemic preparedness at the NSC looking around. Programs like the PREDICT program that would be out there, and I visited those folks in Sierra Leone to see what we were doing to try to have early warning systems and do disease surveillance. A lot of that was dismantled in the first Trump administration. We sounded the alarms that it would make us vulnerable.
Oh my
I'm glad that we
God.
put some of that back.
Holy shit, Jess. Justice came in and gifted out 5 memberships over to you guys. If you guys got one from her, make sure you thank her sincerely. That's huge. Thank you for that very much. Hopefully you're having a good morning, by the way. And I know you're live streaming right now, right? Because I have my stream planning to redirect to you already. So hopefully you're still live.
Early in the winter of 2020, we sounded the alarms when we saw what was going on. We had the first hearing in Congress about this novel coronavirus and understood it was something different. We've now spent the better part of 4 years talking about COVID origins. I don't think we ever get to the bottom of that because evidence is probably destroyed, and it was unfortunate we weren't able to get to the hot zone immediately in early 2020.
See, why isn't it?
I would urge us.
See, I'm looking right now in the chat. Why doesn't it go to anybody? I have plenty of fucking people that are subscribed to my channel. Why doesn't this? So that's what's crazy about it. Like, so don't, if it's doing that, don't even send in memberships. Unfortunately, because what ends up happening when it doesn't actually go and assign to somebody, it's just going to refund anyway. So, but hey, thank you so much. I don't know why YouTube is messing with me, man. It's just not fun. Appreciate you though.
Congress and the country just accept both as plausible theories, so we can, if it is a lab leak, let's actually raise lab standards. Let's have the ability, if folks are doing
Down under. That's right, Mr. Boulay.
and other research that is absolutely necessary for preparedness, let's make sure they're adhering to the highest of lab standards. We also know
Good job,
that
Tiffany.
viruses occur naturally and they're naturally occurring pathogens. We should do everything we can to try to prepare for that. And I think it's time for us to move on. We have to better understand with a novel virus and a pandemic in a very fluid situation where new information is coming in. How do we get that information? How do we communicate it to the public? Because what we knew in March of 2020 was very different than what we knew in October of 2020. And again, in a fluid situation where people are scared, we should spend time thinking about how we allow the scientists to be the scientists, how we allow the
Hey, that's the fun thing about having three legs. Yeah, I guess I only have 2.5 legs, I guess, right?
politicians to be the politicians, but not have the politicians try to be the scientists and the scientists try to be the politicians. How do we work together to
Go subscribe to my boy, man.
Scared
Seriously, hit that
public?
link.
Dr. Marchson, you talked about the critical vulnerabilities in our supply chain. Those clearly were exposed. We as Congress should do everything we can with the rest of the world to address those critical shortages. Think about what that looks like, and fairly quickly where it makes sense on APIs, on protective equipment, et cetera. Make sure we've got adequate stockpiles, but we've also got the reserve capacity to flex up fairly quickly. Early on was involved in lots of conversations that talked about various strategies of, we knew older patients were more vulnerable. Perhaps this did not seem to be impacting younger folks as quickly as possible, given the devastation we're seeing in New York. We made broad decisions, which I think made sense at that juncture. But as we gain more information, we should have fed that back into strategies. Totally understand why in the spring of 2020 we closed schools. Was that the right decision in the fall of 2020?
Good question.
We've got a perfect ability to different states to different things. We should go back and learn from that and feed that into the future. So if we're faced with the same dilemma, we have that information. I still have plenty of questions about why, as this virus evolved, it came up through the East Coast, through Italy, into New York, devastated New York. We had the first naturally occurring case at my home institution, UC Davis, but it didn't rip through California. It didn't, I would have expected to see really bad results in Japan, densely populated area. They were a little bit more open, older population. Why did the virus impact different countries differently? Didn't rip through India, which we were incredibly worried about. I would hope that we in a
good questions
scientific community, taking politics out of this, could go back and try to understand the epidemiology. Was it that Japanese culture is a mask-wearing culture, et cetera? So, there are plenty of questions that still remain outstanding. If we could allow the scientists and the academics to address those things, I would hope that we as Congress could fund those studies.
No way.
Not to prosecute anyone. Or
You talking about the furry, Melanie? Is that who you're talking about? No fucking way. Oh man, I can't wait to raid you over there and just show all. I can't wait to watch. I'm not going to be on that panel. There's no way. Anytime Melanie's around, I cannot be on that panel. It's just not going to work. What's up, Papa Penguin? Good morning, kind sir. Hopefully you're having a wonderful, wonderful morning. We're listening to a lot of government prattle right now. And luckily there has been a couple of good call outs, but it's definitely been some government prattle. They're basically wanting more regulation on pandemic in general, not just the coronavirus, but also how they're going to go forward medically. And basically, they're asking for more bureaucratic bullshit, more red lines to, different red tape across everything. Yeah, it sucks.
We better prepare ourselves as a country and the world. Our public health systems, I knew, had atrophied. We had very bad disease surveillance systems. Obviously,
You might have to restart your YouTube,
and other
Martin.
measures. We could do better, though, to protect our public. And it is not just naturally occurring pathogens. The chairman and I sit on the Intelligence Committee, and we talk about the vulnerabilities of bad actors, of biothreats, et cetera. We ought to, as a Congress in a nonpartisan way, learn from the past, but better prepare ourselves for the future.
Yes.
Real successes as well.
I hate her
never
too,
would have
or
expected
him.
that we would
It's a
get
him, actually.
A vaccine, several vaccines. that were safe,
Transformer.
Efficacious within 12 months. We did it. Some of that was because of prior investments in research at the NIH and elsewhere. Can we get that from 12 months to 3 months? Can we, the FDA successfully streamline processes to get biotherapeutics to market? What are lessons learned there? Can we take
Oh,
some of
dude,
those
I'm jealous right now. There's a lot of, dude, some of the best food in the world is Buc-ee's. Man, absolutely.
use them
That's
to
bomb right
develop
there.
those therapeutics and countermeasures fairly quickly. I'm out of time. I can go on, but I would hope as we look forward, we actually do a real objective analysis without trying to point blame. We got things right. We got things wrong. Let's actually learn from that, and let's better prepare for the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I thank you, Dr.
At least he wasn't reading off a fucking, a whole ass script and shit. Like, these people that are these doctors presenting this shit to these people, they're reading off of a piece of paper,
To comment on your comments, because I agree with you tremendously. Yeah, part of what we were doing here, we had to look back. We can't look forward if we don't look back and see how we can do things better. And I think that you just gave a very constructive approach to what can be
Good
done
idea.
in the future, and that's greatly appreciated. And I want people to hear that that this committee is doing a lot of things. Sometimes there's things people don't like, and sometimes it's things that people do like.
Unfortunate evil,
But
Rick.
nonetheless, it's what are we doing going forward? And so this has been an after-action review, lessons learned, and that's how you create the path forward. And I think you touched on many of those things, and I thank you for taking your time today to reflect on that.
Nice.
I now recognize Dr. Miller Meeks from Iowa for 5 minutes of questions.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman Winstrup, and thank you to the witnesses.
You know what's funny about that, Mr. Boulay, is so when I moved here, like you guys know, 4 months ago, almost 5 months now, whatever. So when I moved here, as I was exploring the state a little bit here in Alabama, my sister actually took me down to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach and stuff like that. But on her way, she asked me, she goes, "Have you ever gone to a Buc-ee's?" I go, "No, I've never even heard of it." She goes, "Oh, we're stopping." And so we did. I filmed it. You know what I mean? I was like, it's fucking crazy. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like bigger than a fucking mall. We're talking about a gas station for everybody that doesn't know what Buc-ee's is. It's basically the fucking mega mall of gas stations. It's insane. Like, and they have notoriously the best food there. Like their brisket sandwich, pulled pork sandwich, stuff like that. They make right there. They're just cooking it up right there. It's awesome. It's really, really interesting. I think it's a really good business.
Testifying
Always
before the Select
packed.
Subcommittee today, and I'm going to dovetail a little bit on what my colleagues just said. Today being the last scheduled hearing for the Select Subcommittee, this is my 4th year on this Select Subcommittee. I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. Winstrup and his staff for their incredible leadership throughout this Congress on investigating and evaluating the federal government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Under his
Man, that
direction,
would be
we have held
dope.
key
We got to do an
agency
appearance. It would be definitely dope to do an appearance over there. That'd be super rad.
witnesses accountable for their actions, made during the pandemic, fulfilling the Oversight and Accountability Committee's mission to provide a check and balance on the role and power of Washington and a voice to the people it serves. I'm really proud of the work that we have done, and I
So
look
you got a southern you got some southern people in here when we're talking about Buc-ee's in here like this. Yeah, it's hilarious.
forward to another productive hearing. And
Oh yeah,
most
no, we would
importantly,
totally do some filming. Absolutely.
the majority of us on this committee understood that our mission was, in fact, to prepare for the next pandemic. And so what has been brought up by Dr. Winstrup and Dr. Bera is precisely that. I spent 24 years in the military, as well as in practicing nurse, doctor, former director of the Iowa Department of Public Health. And if we don't look back on what we did and do an after-action report, we don't know how to build upon what has gone before, what our errors were. Dr. Walke, you're the director of the Office of Readiness and Response at the CDC, where you support the agency's effort to improve performance for public health emergencies. And as you likely know, as I just stated, I was the director of the Department of Public Health, and I was a practicing physician prior, before, after, and then prior to coming to Congress.
Wow.
And I thank Dr. Bera for his comments about origins. Yes, we spent a lot of time on origins, but even in 2020, as a freshman congressperson, when the media and social media was trying to portray this as a witch hunt and it was useless, my comments in 2021 are the same as they are today.
You're not even that's not even a joke. Not even a joke. Yeah, that's what happened. She's a doctor. Why do you think that she did that? Because she's a doctor. Yeah, it all came down to she went way above, and now her standards are extremely high, and she had to find someone that would basically suck her off. Yeah, that's what happened. Absolutely, Anson. Good call out.
It was necessary to investigate origins because that's how we prepare for the next pandemic.
I feel bad for you,
discuss
Jess.
Immediate disclosure, which the Chinese Communist Party did not do and are required to do under international law. We need to discuss lab safety, what type of laboratory research occurs in what lab environments, and that it's in the correct lab environment. And number three, we need to discuss the ethics of certain types of research, i.e. gain-of-function research. So that's why those were important issues. And my next question is going along this line on how people were treated who engaged in conversations, not conformity of thought. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I administered vaccines to Iowans in all 24 counties in my district, but never supported any sort of vaccine mandate or vaccine passport. And that's because I'm a physician.
Word of mouth goes way further
I
than
was and
people
still am
think.
critical of the
Yep.
CDC's
You're
messaging
right.
surrounding vaccines during the pandemic, largely because it inserted itself between the doctor-patient relationship and it discouraged patients from asking questions. It downplayed and
Here's a very key thing about when you're arguing anything in a debate or anything. Don't even engage with somebody. Honestly, this is some game right here. Do not engage with anybody that if you guys' argument at the end of the day, are you attempting to argue to get to the same conclusion? You know what I mean? Like, are you arguing for the same thing that at the end, are you trying to receive and get to the end point? If you agree on that, yes, it may be worth having the conversation. But if you know that they have different motives and don't even waste your time on bullshit like that. Yeah. You have to make sure that before you even engage in an argument that they want the same outcome that you do. That transformer over there, yeah, has not. Yeah, that is. You guys are not arguing for the same shit. I promise that.
fact, refuted that there was infection-acquired immunity and herd immunity. People were labeled as anti-vaxxers, radicals, and called other demeaning terms simply for questioning whether novel vaccines that had not been FDA approved were right for them, or if they needed to be vaccinated if they'd already had proven disease.
Exactly,
and
vengeful.
immunity,
I would never
or if
have
because of their
that
age, and
on
we
my
saw
shit.
two of the vaccine experts at the FDA resign over the FDA's position. So as a result, we've seen increased rates of vaccine hesitancy, which could have a detrimental impact on public health, especially as we're entering flu season. In most of my district, for example, rates of vaccine hesitancy are already at 15%. And as a state senator in 2019 and 2020, I can tell you there were numerous bills entered
Real quick, because that's a lot of prattle right here we're hearing. Just a lot of prattle, bullshit prattle. It's, dude, such a bummer. But hey, listen, hey, we're doing a call to action right now. Hey, make sure you guys hit that like button. If you guys are just coming in and hanging out with us, make sure you guys hit that like button. And if you guys are not subscribed yet, look down below. Make sure you guys hit that sub button. I very much appreciate you guys. Hopefully you guys are all having a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever the hell you guys are from.
So do you believe that the CDC's, I'll call it forceful to be diplomatic, guidance on COVID-19 vaccines and lack of detailed information on possible adverse outcomes, like when they downplay that there was myocarditis in young men, that it's contributed to the increasing rates of vaccine hesitancy?
Thank you for the question. COVID vaccines have really undergone the most rigorous safety monitoring of any vaccine in history. And
I'm sorry. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm asking you, how is the CDC going to overcome increasing vaccine hesitancy and talking to people about the most rigorous scientific protocol?
Oh, yeah. You see that the American people don't want to abide by your government standard? Oh.
19 vaccines.
How are we going to control them?
Going to end that hesitancy. They have people they talk to in their community.
Oh, no, they took it down. The live stream ended and they took it down. No way. Well, it just continued on. I mean, we're only 30 minutes behind because of our breaks and talks and stuff like that. But hey, that's enough for me, dude. I heard enough. I heard enough, dude. Like there's no need for me to like continue on with this. I see where this is going. I see what's happening. I'm glad Mr. Comer actually made a good call out. But that's really all that happened in regards of that. Now, we had more information in the beginning of this entire stream, and it was about, you know, the Middle East. And so I highly advise anybody that is interested in geopolitics on any of that, and you missed that, make sure you guys go back into the video once this ends, you know, or actually after the raid, because we're going to raid Jess over there. And I really appreciate you, Jess, and everybody here for your guys' help and patronage to the channel. Thank you guys for just being here alone. It means the absolute world. Like you guys in the Breakfast Club, man, I really get beside myself, man. And I'm very honored by you guys actually trusting in me and my reporting and what I've got to say, or you guys enjoy my political takes. I very much appreciate that. It means so much to me, sincerely. So with that being said, everybody, we will see you guys tomorrow morning. So check it out, man. Here's the thing. We're probably going to do a funny, you know, episode if I can, and there's not some crazy breaking news. I would like to get off the subjects of some serious, crazy bureaucratic bullshit that we've been watching for the last 3 days. I definitely want to cover something that's a little bit more funny and fun for all of you guys, because we've gone through it. And then, of course, the next day after that, you know, because tomorrow's Friday, the next day is members only. So for you guys that have joined and become a part of the membership, man, being a part of the Breakfast Club, thank you guys for your patronage and help on that. And trust me, it goes a long way, man. So thank you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Much love, honor, respect to you. See ya.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burns.